This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. In-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up. But with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save on average up to 50% per session. Therapy should feel accessible, not like a luxury. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/super to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/super. Mother Gothel coaches the other Disney villains? Like, what? Hey, brother! I wonder if the editors left that in. We won't know till we know. All right, guys, today we're going to try and tackle a question that I don't think nearly enough people are asking the question about. In Tangled, what on earth is Mother Gothel actually up to? Because as far as the plot of the film is concerned, it's not hard at all to understand how she is the antagonist. Like, in short, she discovers a golden flower, which effectively grants her immortality. She then loses access to that flower when the kingdom collects it to save the queen, who is both sick and pregnant with Rapunzel. The power of the flower is somehow magically transferred into Rapunzel by way of her hair and continues to grant the flower's gift of regenerative. The power of the flower is somehow magically transferred into Rapunzel by way of her hair and continues to grant the flower's gift of regenerative and healing capabilities. To Mother Gothel's credit, at first she only tries to steal a lock of Rapunzel's hair, but discovers that upon cutting it, it loses all of its power. Hope that doesn't come up later. So screwed. But then, so as one does when they discover that their fountain of youth turned infant child is only redeemable if you have the whole child, she takes Rapunzel. That plotline alone is enough for the purposes of the movie Tangled. Royal princess is taken by self-absorbed narcissist and has no way of knowing her own true identity or how to ever return home. And we can pretty much hate her for that and don't need any more ammunition. And for official clarity, that's my exact personal position towards Mother Gothel. To make matters worse though, her real supervillain power isn't even all that extraordinary. In fact, other than being really old, her only major gift seems to be being condescending.
Oh look, you're here too. I'm just teasing. Stop taking everything so seriously.
And gaslighting.
Oh, you mean the stars.
She can really just make your skin crawl sometimes, can't she? Here's what I can't figure out. Mother Gothel is bad for obvious reasons. Kidnapping, being a total buttface, poor illustration abilities. I mean, seriously, your exhibition titled Men with Pointy Teeth, like, it left a lot to be desired. But Mother Gothel has been alive for hundreds of years, long enough for the entire kingdom of Corona to literally sprout into existence. She may actually be older than Rapunzel's own royal lineage. What on earth has she been up to? Like, other than vanity, what is she actually doing with her insanely long lifespan? Well, I'll tell you what I think she's doing. I think she's training the other Disney villains. Okay, so in case you guys are new to SuperCarlinBrothers, Mother Gothel is a character we've given some rather special attention to, specifically due to her long lifespan. One jumping off point that we had in the past is the shocking similarities between her and Meg from Hercules. The quick premise is that if you watch the scenes where the golden droplet falls from the sky, you'll notice that it almost perfectly matches the scene where Hercules is taken from the heavens as a baby. Then where he lands on the ground would be like a sunspot touched by the gods because he hasn't actually consumed the bottle of mortality juice? What is that stuff?
Here you go, kid. A little Christian formula.
Then one entire plot of Hercules later, we know that Herc decides to live a mortal life with Meg instead of rejoining the gods. Devastatingly, Meg then goes on to outlive the man who abandoned immortality to have a life with her, and she goes searching for answers, specifically where he touched down on Earth and discovers the golden flower, and then spends her life searching for a way to get him back. Flower, gleam and glow, let your power shine. Make the clock reverse, bring back what once was mine. What once was mine. Yeah, right? Chilling. My singing voice, not the implied meaning and, importance of connecting these two major characters. The real kicker for me, though, has always been Meg and Mother Gothel's rather unique phrase.
You big lug.
You big lug.
You big lug. What are the odds? That's a weird line. Plus, we know that Meg doesn't take well to men in her life leaving her.
You sold your soul to me to save your boyfriend's life. And how does this creep thank you? By running off with some babe.
Of course, in this case, the way that he left was by dying, but he was supposed to be immortal, so But so then you might be sitting there thinking like, well then Ben, wait, but like Meg is like a good guy. How does she become Mother Gothel? Well, don't forget that Meg started out working for Hades, using her beauty and charm to help him recruit monsters for his army to help him challenge Zeus along with the Titans.
I'm a damsel. I'm in distress. I can handle this. Have a nice day.
What this means is that Meg's biggest resume builder prior to her relationship with Hercules was working for the godly overseer of the underworld and recruiting, for lack of a better term, villains.
Because everybody's got a weakness.
All I can guess is that the true injustice of your boyfriend leaving immortality for you only for him to die and then for you to discover immortality and be forced to live with it literally forever started to take its toll on her. So if we fast forward to closer to the present time of Tangled, let's start poking around and looking for clues as to how Mother Gothel seems to be spending her free time. For one, if we look closely at the scene when Rapunzel is still just a little girl, we can pretty clearly see that the castle tower she's being kept in is basically barren compared to how it will look as she gets much older. In part, this is due to the many hobbies that are introduced to Rapunzel's life to occupy her time and hopefully dissuade her from desiring a life outside the tower very much. The point here is that this suggests that the tower was specifically built for Rapunzel, for housing Rapunzel, and was not Mother Gothel's home base prior to needing somewhere to store her now human form lifespan extender, life force anchor? Basically, she needed a place to keep her, but I don't think that Mother Gothel is all of that tied to the Kingdom of Corona per her activities, and she seems to travel quite often.
I'll be back in 3 days' time.
You know what that trip is for, the 3 days' time? Shells. You know where you get shells? By the ocean. You know who lives in the ocean? But back to Rapunzel and Tangled, because all of Rapunzel's various hobbies and secret pet chameleon that Mother Gothel doesn't even know about suggest that she's not keeping the world's closest eye on Rapunzel, save for when she needs a little face tuning. Flower gleam and glow, let your power shine. Actually, Pascal the Chameleon is also a fairly interesting clue that Mother Gothel is traveling to faraway lands, because the Kingdom of Corona is supposed to be located somewhere within Germany, and chameleons are absolutely not native to that part of the world. Where they do come from ranges from Africa to the Middle East, and because we know that Rapunzel didn't go there since, she never leaves her tower, and that Mother Gothel doesn't know about Pascal's existence, it means that he must have come into the tower as a hitchhiker from her travels. So if we examine the landscape of other Disney villains, it's not hard to figure out which of them might reside in this particular area of the world. And it works out rather beautifully because a chameleon is specifically involved with one of Disney's most infamous villains as a central part of his incredibly nefarious plan. Yeah, we're talking about Scar and the stampede that is supposed to kill not only Mufasa, but also Simba. How does Scar get Simba to hang out on the rock that will plant him in the direct path of the stampede?
And just between us, you might want to work on that little roar of yours,
And what does Simba subsequently roar at? A chameleon. Sure, Scar crafted this plan, but maybe, just maybe, he had some help, and took some inspiration for the green fire while he was at it. But as long as we're in this region of the world, we have yet another villain just north of Africa in the Middle East, where you can also find chameleons. In the fictional city of Agrabah, there is the Sultan's Grand Vizier, Jafar, who we will come back to in just a moment, but before we tackle Jafar, I think Mother Gothel made a different stop in France. This is, of course, the setting of Beauty and the Beast, where you might be thinking like, Ben Gaston isn't exactly the brightest, and his plan isn't that great.
I know.
Or intelligent.
How can you read this? There's no pictures.
Nothing compared to Scar's stampede maneuver. The man is basically defeated by furniture.
What's wrong with her? She's crazy. He's gorgeous.
I'm going to take a quick pause right there to say thanks to today's sponsor, Aura Frames. Y'all, Mother's Day is just around the corner, and raise your hand if gift giving is your love language, because yeah, me too. And let me let you in on one of my favorite gifts that is both sentimental and quality as heck. It is going to be the Carver matte frame from Aura, and I really can't even begin to tell you how much we love these. For one, they come beautifully packaged and actually have their upload code on the box, so you can preload the frame before they even open it. And then once it's open, it's a breeze to get set up, and you can invite anyone to easily upload photos from your phone's camera roll directly to one or more frames at once. And Jay has one, I have one, our parents, my mother-in-law, our dad's office has a unique one. They are literally everywhere, and I'll periodically go through to add the latest photos of my daughter Addison or Alice and I's adventures and just copy the whole selection to each album with a few simple clicks. And my absolute favorite with the Aura frame is when you add photos to someone's frame and then get a phone call a day or so later from one of our parents being like, wait, where were you in this one? And then I get to talk to my parents, and it's great. And Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver matte frame. That's AURA frames.com, promo code SCB. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions do apply. Links to everything in the description down below. But this time, the obvious villain of the movie is not the client. Instead, I think we look to the enchantress who sets the curse on the castle after Prince Adam refuses her entry. Adam is, of course, transformed into a violent beast who can only overcome his transformation if he can fall in love before the last petal of an enchanted rose falls. Talk about a total ripoff of A Court of Thorns and Roses, am I right? Either way, this ends up being a feat that Adam barely succeeds at, but for all intents and purposes was destined to fail at. Who would benefit from Adam's failure? Who might benefit from the existence of an incredibly powerful beast out in the world? Villains. That's who.
Hey, I've been turned into a cow. Can I go home?
Adam was never meant to win. He was a spoiled brat who was rude and an easy scapegoat. No one is really feeling all of that bad for him. When we, the audience, meet him for the first time, he basically is a villain.
I'll give you a place to stay.
Oh, please! Oh,
You can also never really underestimate the whole Stockholm Syndrome situation going on with Beauty and the Beast as well, but that's a different story. But all this is just until Belle's stupid open mind comes strolling up, ugh. And if you're looking very carefully, you can even see that they wrote a book about this, Entangled, right here. Actually, while we're in France, I'll also point out this green ring in Gothel's drawer, which you can also find right here on Count Frollo's finger.
coincidence? I think
it's really honestly hard to say. But back to the Beast. This is where we need to jump back again to Hades as an instructor, because when he is planning his moves against Hercules, he does so visually on a huge strategy table with each of his monsters represented in figure form. I think Mother Gothel has picked up this exact same strategy and is creating a roster of minions she can one day use to achieve her own ends. Which finally brings us back to Agrabah and what I can only imagine was Mother Gothel's own calling card right here in the Sultan's castle. If you look carefully as he is stacking his animal figurines, you can spot none other than one of the Beast himself. Pretty reminiscent of Hades and his board, isn't it? This is a tool that Jafar may be able to call on if his plan doesn't succeed, or at least an example of the kind of results that she can deliver. Plus, not for nothing, but Jafar does eventually turn himself into a huge beast. Also, actually, and this one might just be Super Villain 101, but I can't help but notice these striking similarities in how both Aladdin and Rapunzel are eventually bound and tied. But with that, let's move back to the tower itself, which, as I mentioned, is filled in rather nicely as Rapunzel gets older. There are lots of other clues that may pay homage to Mother Gothel's previous works. For one, the wardrobe that Rapunzel hides Flynn in is strikingly similar to a wardrobe in the Beast's castle, maybe a little keepsake that she took with her. Then there's the spinning wheel parked in one corner, which just absolutely screams Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, which look, they even wrote a book about it, Entangled. Right here. Also, doesn't Maleficent have a thing for green fire as well? What's up with that? Then, the mirror that Mother Gothel uses to examine her own beauty bears tremendous resemblance to the magic mirror of the evil queen in Snow White, which, not for nothing, also takes place in Germany. So, basically neighbors. In fact, you can actually see one of the super spooky trees as the emergency escape exit from the Snuggly Duckling. At least this job had a shorter commute for the old Gothel. Also makes me wonder whether or not the gemstones inside of her crown were harvested by the 7 dwarves. Cool! Actually, still on the Snow White note, you can even see what looks an awful lot like a poison apple painting on the banister in the tower. You might think that this would be Rapunzel's work since she's basically painted every square inch of that place, but somehow this one is just a bit creepier than her usual works. Plus, when Gothel ages into a hag, she looks an awful lot like the peddler's disguise. And how did she know her way around the castle so well if she's never been there? Wait. Her and the Evil Queen were best friends! It makes sense to me! Also, we do know about that theory. It's just not today's theory, but maybe sometime later in the future. Okay, let us know. Towel section? Then finally, we just need to watch Mother Gothel's tactics in real time. She can do a lot using nothing more than her words and know-how. Like we said, one of her key superpowers is just that of gaslighting Rapunzel, who can almost see her actual home from her window, but she's managed to keep her cooped up for a solid 18 years. Look at her tip-off that sends her back to look for Rapunzel in the tower. It's nothing more than seeing Maximus without his rider. It's barely a hint, but she is on it like a fox. And her instincts are exactly correct. Rapunzel is gone. But then, even once she finds her, she knows not to act too aggressively. Instead of just taking her from the forest, she paces herself, knows that in order to win, you have to set a snare and let her walk into it. She does this by just almost immediately winning over the Stabbington brothers, 2 guys who otherwise could have been viewed as intimidating or even villainous, dare I say. By the way, total side theory, any chance that these guys are like related to Hans from Frozen? I mean, we know he has like, how many brothers again?
12 older brothers.
They've got the red hair, sideburns, they're trying to steal a crown. I'm just saying, there might be something to it. Anyway though, Mother Gothel is able to get these 2 goons on her side to do everything that she needs them to do, and then immediately is able to dispense of them while also making Rapunzel doubt Flynn and winning her back over all at once. That is criminal mastermind stuff. But then of course we have to pull the strings and draw the whole thing back together because Mother Gothel doesn't love Rapunzel. She loves the power of her hair and the accompanying immortality it brings her.
Keep you safe and sound, yeah.
And she's definitely vain, but even hailing back to Meg's time with Hades, it's her beauty that's so essential to her ability to play people. She needs her beauty to enact her plans. But again, what plan? What is the goal here? Well, to bring it full circle, I think the answer is Hercules. Stick with me. Last we saw Hades, he was dumped into that giant vat of death, soul, soup.
Soup! He's not gonna be happy when he gets out of there!
You mean if he gets out of there? If is good.
Hilarious sentiment, boys. Totally sounds like Hades is just like gone for good, but also lost your bet on that same line earlier in this same movie, and Hades is actually immortal. He may not be pleased about being sucked into death soup, but it can't kill him. He still rules the underworld. And if he rules the underworld and you can recover people from the vat of death soup, which we know is possible because Hercules gets Meg out, then if Meg can somehow strong-arm Hades into doing so, then maybe, just maybe, she can bring Hercules back. And her plan to do that is the same plan Hades had for Zeus. Assemble an army of villains and monsters and force the matter. I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I've probably watched Tangled like 100 times in the past year, and it is one of my all-time favorite movies, but what Mother Gothel is up to is something that has always just bothered me so much, and inside of that tower, there are just countless little hints and clues that suggest that she has something to do with the other villains, and I feel like if you can start to piece together the entire narrative, it really starts to just make a lot of sense. But as always, I want to know what you guys think, so let me know in the towel section down below. But y'all, as always, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you'd like to see the entire breakdown with even more evidence for the idea that Meg actually goes on to be Mother Gothel, you can check out this video right over here. But otherwise, until next time, bye! Don't forget to eat cheese.